Have you ever watched a leaf in autumn, vibrant with color, dance one last time in the wind before gently letting go of the branch? It does not cling, nor does it despair. It simply returns. There was once a renowned Zen master, known throughout the land for his profound wisdom and serene presence. Many sought his counsel, from humble peasants to powerful lords. One day, a wealthy merchant, whose life was a whirlwind of acquisitions and anxieties, came before him. The merchant, though surrounded by opulence, carried a heavy heart, for the thought of his own eventual demise haunted his every waking moment and disturbed his sleep. "Master," he began, his voice trembling slightly despite his outward show of confidence, "I have everything a man could desire: riches, influence, a large family. Yet, I live in constant fear. The thought of death, of losing it all, of ceasing to be, it paralyzes me. Tell me, what is this thing called death, and how can I escape its shadow?" The Zen master, his eyes like tranquil pools reflecting ancient starlight, listened patiently. He then picked up a delicate teacup, its porcelain surface adorned with a single, exquisitely painted cherry blossom. He poured tea into it, the fragrant steam rising like a fleeting prayer. "Consider this cup," the master said softly, holding it out. "It is beautiful, is it not? It serves its purpose, holding this warm tea, bringing comfort and delight. But, like all things, its form is not permanent. One day, perhaps through a careless hand, perhaps through the simple passage of time, it will break. Its destiny is to become fragments, to return to the earth from which its clay was formed." He paused, allowing his words to settle. "When it is whole," he continued, "we call it a teacup. When it is broken, do we mourn the death of the teacup? Or do we understand that its essence, the clay, the potential, has merely changed form? The teacup was always, in its heart, destined to be broken. Its beauty and utility were precious precisely because they were transient. Knowing this, do we use it less, or cherish it more while it serves?" The merchant sat in silence, the master's words echoing in the quietude of the room, the image of the fragile teacup and the falling autumn leaf merging in his mind. The question awakens. The merchant's silence was not one of emptiness, but of burgeoning understanding. The simple teacup, the falling leaf, they whispered a profound truth. And so, the question that brought him to the master, the question that perhaps nestles in the quiet corners of all our hearts, awakens anew. What, then, is this experience we call death? Is it merely an ending, a full stop to the story of our lives? Or is it, like the shattering of the teacup, a transformation, a return, a change in the way existence expresses itself? How do we, who cherish life so dearly, navigate the certainty of its apparent cessation with wisdom and grace, rather than with fear and despair? This is not a question to be answered with a simple definition, for death touches every facet of our being, our biology, our psychology, our philosophies, our spiritual yearnings. It is the ultimate mystery, the great unknown that frames our known existence. To explore it is to explore life itself, in all its precious, fleeting beauty. The outer lens. From a purely biological standpoint, death is often defined as the irreversible cessation of all vital functions, the point at which the intricate machinery of the body ceases to operate. The heart no longer beats, the lungs no longer draw breath, the brain no longer orchestrates the symphony of thought and sensation. Science can describe this process with increasing precision, detailing the cellular decay, the entropic slide from order to disorder. It tells us of the physical body returning to its constituent elements, rejoining the great cycle of matter and energy that sustains the planet. Philosophically, humanity has grappled with death for millennia. The ancient Stoics, like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, viewed death not as an evil, but as a natural and inevitable process. They counseled us to live in accordance with nature, to accept what we cannot change, and to focus on living a virtuous life, making the quality of our existence, not its length, the primary concern. Death, for them, was a release from the toils and tribulations of life, a return to a state of non-existence that was not to be feared, as it was no different from the state before we were born. Existentialist thinkers, from Kierkegaard to Sartre and Camus, placed the awareness of death at the very center of human experience. They argued that confronting our own finitude, our mortality, is what gives life its urgency and meaning. The knowledge that our time is limited can be a powerful catalyst, urging us to live authentically, to make conscious choices, and to create our own purpose in a universe that may offer none inherently. For some, this confrontation leads to angst and despair. For others, it is a call to embrace freedom and responsibility with profound intensity. Across cultures, mythologies, and religions have woven intricate narratives around death. Some speak of afterlives, of heavens and hells, of judgment and reincarnation. These stories, whether taken literally or metaphorically, attempt to provide comfort, to impose order on the unknown, and to offer a sense of continuity beyond the physical demise. They reflect a deep human yearning for meaning to transcend the grave, for justice to prevail, and for connections to endure. Even in our modern, often secularized world, the echoes of these ancient ponderings remain. We see it in our elaborate funeral rituals, in our grief and mourning practices, in our enduring fascination with near-death experiences, and in the ongoing scientific and philosophical quest to understand consciousness and its relationship to the physical body. Is consciousness merely an emergent property of the brain, extinguished when the brain dies? Or could it be something more fundamental, something that might persist or transform beyond physical death? These are questions that the outer lens of science and conventional philosophy continue to explore, often arriving at the boundaries of current knowledge, where mystery still holds sway. The Dharma Mirror. When we turn the Dharma mirror, the teachings of the Buddha, upon the question of death, the reflection we see is both profound and liberating. Buddhism does not shy away from the reality of death. In fact, it places the contemplation of impermanence, Anicca, at the very heart of its path to wisdom and liberation. The first noble truth, the truth of dukkha, or suffering, acknowledges that life, as ordinarily lived, is characterized by dissatisfaction, and this includes the suffering associated with sickness, old age, and death. But the Buddha did not stop at diagnosing the condition. He offered a path to its cessation. This path begins with understanding the nature of reality, and death is an inseparable part of that nature. From the Buddhist perspective, what we call death is not an annihilation of a permanent, unchanging self or soul, because such a fixed entity, an Atman, is understood to be an illusion. This is the teaching of Anatta, or non-self. What we perceive as a solid, continuous me is, in reality, a dynamic, ever-changing process, a confluence of physical and mental aggregates, skandhas, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These are constantly arising and passing away, moment by moment. Life is a continuous flow, a stream of becoming. And what we call death is simply a more dramatic and discernible point of transformation in this ceaseless stream. The teaching of dependent origination, Padakasamuppada, further illuminates this. Everything arises in dependence upon conditions. Nothing exists in isolation. Our existence is conditioned by countless causes and effects, stretching back and forward in time. When the conditions that sustain this particular psychophysical combination cease, that life form ceases. However, the karmic energies, the imprints of actions, karma, driven by intention, satana, do not simply vanish. These energies, born of our volitional acts of body, speech, and mind, carry forward, conditioning future becoming, leading to rebirth. This is not the transmigration of a fixed soul, but rather the continuation of a process, like one flame lighting another. The second flame is neither the same as the first, nor entirely different, but its existence is causally linked to the first. Therefore, death in Buddhism is not an absolute end, but a transition within the cycle of samsara, the round of birth, death, and rebirth, driven by ignorance, avijja, and craving, tanha. The ultimate goal of the Buddhist path is not a good rebirth, though that is a relative aim, but nirvana, the cessation of this cycle altogether, the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion, leading to a state of profound peace, liberation, and unconditioned reality. The contemplation of death, Maranasati, is a powerful practice in Buddhism. It is not meant to be morbid, but to awaken us to the preciousness and urgency of our present lives. By regularly reflecting on the certainty of death and the uncertainty of its timing, we are encouraged to live more mindfully, to cultivate wholesome qualities like compassion, karuna, and loving kindness, metta, to purify our minds, and to diligently walk the path towards wisdom. Knowing that this life is fleeting, we are less likely to become entangled in trivial pursuits, worldly ambitions that bring no lasting happiness, or harmful conflicts. Instead, we are inspired to make the most of each moment, to practice the Dharma, and to live in a way that is beneficial to ourselves and others. The Zen master's teacup, therefore, is a perfect Dharma seal. Its beauty is real, its utility is real, but its permanence is an illusion. To understand death is to understand this impermanence, not just intellectually, but in the very marrow of our bones. And in that understanding, fear begins to dissolve, replaced by a profound acceptance and a courageous embrace of life as it truly is, a precious, unrepeatable, and ever-changing dance. The inner shift. The wisdom teachings, whether from ancient philosophies or the deep well of the Dharma, are not meant to remain as abstract concepts. Their true value lies in their power to catalyze an inner shift, a transformation in how we perceive and experience our lives, and consequently, how we approach the reality of death. How, then, can we begin to cultivate this inner shift? It often starts with simple, yet profound, practices of mindfulness and contemplation. Consider spending a few moments each day in quiet reflection. You might observe the breath, noticing its ceaseless rhythm, the gentle rise and fall, a constant reminder of the life force within you, and also of its transient nature. Each out-breath, in a subtle way, is a letting go. Engage in the practice of observing impermanence in the world around you. Notice the changing seasons, the blooming and fading of flowers, the shifting clouds, the erosion of mountains over eons. See these not as symbols of loss, but as expressions of life's dynamic, flowing nature. Extend this observation to your own experiences, the fleeting nature of thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. Nothing remains static. This direct seeing of Anicca in everyday life chips away at our ingrained habit of clinging to permanence. Journaling can be a powerful tool for inner exploration. You might write about your fears and anxieties surrounding death, not to dwell on them, but to bring them into the light of awareness, to understand their roots. Explore what truly matters to you in this life. If you knew your time was limited, which, of course, it is, how would your priorities change? What unfinished business, not just in the material sense, but in terms of relationships, forgiveness, and love, would you attend to? Consider the practice of metta or loving-kindness meditation. Extend wishes of well-being, happiness, and peace, first to yourself, then to loved ones, to neutral persons, to difficult persons, and finally, to all beings everywhere. This practice cultivates a boundless heart, and a heart filled with love and compassion has less room for fear. It connects us to the shared human condition, the shared journey through life and death. Perhaps most directly, one can undertake the Maranasati, the mindfulness of death, in a structured way. This doesn't mean dwelling on gruesome images, but rather calmly and regularly contemplating. Death is certain. The time of death is uncertain. What is truly important for me to do? This reflection can be a powerful motivator to live ethically, to cultivate wisdom, and to cherish the present moment. It helps to cut through procrastination and to focus our energies on what truly nourishes the spirit. This inner shift is not about eradicating the natural human response of sadness or grief when faced with loss. These are part of our capacity for love and connection. Rather, it is about transforming the terror of annihilation into a wise acceptance of life's full spectrum, including its end. It's about living with a greater sense of presence, purpose, and peace, knowing that while this particular form is temporary, the dance of existence continues. The reflection echo. The autumn leaf lets go, returning to the earth, enriching the soil for future growth. The teacup, even when broken, its clay may become part of something new. If all of existence is a ceaseless flow of arising and passing, of transformation and renewal, then what is it that we truly fear when we contemplate death? Is it the loss of me, this collection of memories, habits, and identities we have so carefully constructed? If, as the Dharma suggests, this me is not a fixed, independent entity but a dynamic process, does its dissolution mean an absolute end, or a rejoining with a larger, unnameable whole? Could it be that our fear of death is intrinsically linked to how we live our lives? If we live in a state of constant craving, aversion, and delusion, clinging desperately to the transient, then death will indeed appear as the ultimate thief. But if we cultivate non-attachment, wisdom, and compassion, might death then be met not as an enemy, but as a natural transition, a gateway to a different mode of being, or perhaps a profound rest? What if the true art of dying is discovered in the art of living fully, mindfully, and with an open heart, each and every day? What if, by embracing our impermanence, we unlock the secret to a life of profound meaning and unshakable peace? These are not easy questions, and the journey to their heart is a personal one, unique to each seeker. The Noble Wisdom Path is here as a companion on that journey, a space for shared contemplation and gentle discovery. If the reflections shared today have resonated with you, if they have sparked a flicker of understanding or a moment of peace in your heart, we invite you to continue this exploration with us. Subscribe to our channel for more journeys into the heart of wisdom. Like this video if it has offered you something of value, and please share your own thoughts, your own questions, your own insights in the comments below. For it is in this shared inquiry, this collective seeking, that wisdom often blossoms most beautifully. May you walk your path with courage, with clarity, and with a heart open to the profound mystery and beauty of both life and its inevitable, transformative companion, death. May you find peace.